Up till now, we've been factoring by grouping. And while you've been doing really well at that, and you'll always get the right answer, I think it's time that you guys learned a shorter method of factoring. Are you ready? I think you are. Let's start off with a very basic one. X squared plus 3x plus 2. And I know that the first thing you'd look for is a greatest common factor, and there aren't any. And then the next thing you do is set up your diamond. What two numbers multiply together to get 2, but add together to get 3? Simple one, right? 2 and 1 are my two factors. Now normally we'd go in and rename 3x to be 2x plus 1x. But now we're going to start using a shortcut. Step number 1, write two parentheses. Step number 2, we're going to put the two x's in there because we know that x squared is x times x. Now step number 3, we're going to take the two numbers that are on the sides of the diamond and put them right into the parentheses. If you use FOIL, you would notice that you have x plus 2, x plus 1. Here's 2x plus 1x gives me the 3x in the center, and 2 times 1 equals 2. Easier, right? Let's try another. What two numbers give you 6 when you multiply them? That give you 7 when you add them. 6 and 1 are the two numbers. So again, step 1, put your two parentheses. Step 2, x times x is x squared. Step 3, use the two numbers from the sides of the diamond and put them directly into the parentheses. 1x and 6x's give you the 7x's that you're looking for in the first place. Now I have negatives in here. It's not going to make a difference. What two numbers multiply together to get a negative 24 and add together to get a negative 5? Negative 8 and a positive 3 are my two numbers. Step 1, draw my parentheses. Step 2, split my x's. Step 3, I have a negative 8, which becomes minus 8 in the parenthesis, and a positive 3, which means it's addition. So x minus 8 times the quantity x plus 3. Use the FOIL method to make sure that I'm right. 3x and a negative 8x gives me the negative 5x that I'm looking for in the middle term. But what happens if you don't have a 1 as your a? What if it's a number that's other than 1? We're going to start with this one because both a and the c are prime numbers, which means that they only have one pair each of factors. So 3, the number 3, is 3 times 1, and I'm going to split the x's. The factors of 7 are 7 and 1. And I put them in this order for the first one just so that you can see what we do. So now, 3x times 1 is 3x. 1x times 7 is 7x. And if I add those two together, because this says addition, if I add those two together, I get the 10x that I'm looking for in the middle term. So step 1 is still the same. I draw my two parentheses. But now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go across, and that becomes my first term. So my first term is 3x plus 7, and I put that right inside the parenthesis. Likewise, I'm going to go across here for my second term. My second binomial is going to be x plus 1. I have 1x plus 1 becomes x plus 1. Watch it again if you need to. We're going to try another one. 3x times 1x gives me the 3x squared. And you'll see that I already put down a -7 and a +7 as my two possibilities for factors of 49. The reason I chose those was 49 is a huge number. So 49 compared with 14, you know that you can't use 1 and 49 as a possibility. Because if I did 3x times 49, I'd get a number way bigger than 14. And even if I did 1x times 49, I would still be too far away from 14. So that tells me I'm going to use the other pair of factors for 49. So 3x times 7 is 21x, and 1x times a -7 is a -7x. And when I add those two together, I get the positive 14x that I need. Draw my two parentheses. Step 1, go straight across. Those two become my first terms in my binomial, 3x minus 7. Step 3, I'm going to go with these two terms, and those become my second binomial, 1x plus 7. Now we're going to use FOIL to check and make sure. First, 3x squared, outsides, 21x, insides, -7x, and -7 times a +7 gives me the -49. So I did it correctly. Let's try another one. Now in this case, we have 45. So we know that the 7 is prime, so 7x and 1x, we already know that that makes the 7x squared, and it's the only possibility. But now with 45, we have a bunch of different factors that we could possibly use. So I'm going to use this to help me kind of figure out what I would need to use to get that term of a -26 for the center. I know that 1 and 45 is going to be way too big. So, because 7 times 45 is a big number, and even 1 times 45 is too big to give us this 26. So now I'm just going to look at the numbers and see what makes sense. If I do 1 times 15, I'm going to get 15, and 3 times 7 is 21. That's still way too big. So I know that 5 and 9 are going to be my choices. Now I just have to figure out which way I put those in order to be able to get the correct answer. I'm going to try 9 and a -5. And 7x times a -5 is a -35x, and 1 times 9 is a +9x. And if I add those two together, I'm going to get the -26 that I need. Step 1, parentheses. Step 2, go straight across, 7x and 9. Step 3, go across the bottom, 1x minus 5. Foil it and make sure you get the correct answer. Last one. This one is the most difficult of all because the number 6 is not prime and it has two sets of factors, and the number 50 is not prime and it has three sets of factors. So now what we need to do is we need to play with the numbers and figure out which ones are going to work. So if I take a look at the 6 times the 1 and the 1 times the 50, I'm going to start off by saying that those are probably not going to be the ones that I want to use. Because 6 times 1 is going to give me something really big if I use any of those factors with 60. This is what I mean. 6 times 50 is 300. And even 1 times 50 is 50 plus 6 is going to give me 56. So that's too big. It's not going to give me the 35 that I need. Next, I know that I'm going to have something that has a 5 in the units place in order to be able to get the 5 that's in the units place in my middle term. So I know that 2 and 3 are going to be my answers. That's the only thing that I could use for the 6. So I'm going to put those in right now. So I have 3x and I have the 2x. So I've already taken care of the 6x squared. Now I have to figure out which one's going to work. Well, 3 times the 25 is going to give me 75. So that's way off from the negative 35. So I'm not going to do this one either. I'm just going to say that this is not a choice. So now we have left is 5 and 10. Now we got to figure out which ones are going to work. So let me start with this. I'm going to put a 5 up here and I'm going to put a 10 here and see what happens. 3x times 10 gives me 30x, and 2x times 5 gives me 10x for a total of 40x. That doesn't work because I need 35. But what happens if I switch those around instead? Now let's see what happens. 3x times 5 gives me 15, and 2x times 10 is 20, and 20 plus 15 gives me the 35x that I'm looking for. Now we know that both of those, the 10 and the 5, both of them have to be negative in order for this to give me the negative 35 and a positive 50. So step 1, I'm going to use my parentheses as I usually do. Step 2 is going to be 3x minus 10. And step 3, my second binomial is going to be 2x minus 5. I hope that you find this easier. Remember that grouping will always work, but it takes longer. If this works for you, great. Feel free to use it. If you don't want to use it, that's okay too. I just thought I'd share an easier way.